public consciousness at the moment is about hair politicalness at work.
Don't try to fit me in your box. Okay?
I love that.
I know who I am.
What that would do would like burn my scalp. I just remember thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore.
There's a stereotype that African men are not interested in feminism.
I just remember feeling so self-conscious, like, oh my God, I'm going to work in an afro and it's in central London. Like, what's this going to be like?
For example, go and get my hair done, and I've been told in predominantly white areas in northern England that we don't do afro hair.
Please stop all this woke agenda.
It's political correctness gone mad.
Sorry, Thought Police.
You're such a snowflake.
Surely all lives matter.
Did those sound familiar? Here on You Can't Say Anything Anymore, we unpack the nuances of these comments and bring sidelined lived experiences to the forefront. Brought to you by Diversifying Group.
Hi everyone, welcome to this month's episode. And this episode is a very special episode. As I always say every single episode, they can't always be special, or maybe they can. But this episode is our first ever episode recorded in the studio. And I have my two very lovely colleagues here. So just before we start, my name is Naomi. I'm the host of this podcast. My pronouns are she and they. And this week we have my lovely colleagues. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
I'll go first. Hi everyone, my name is Desiree. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been at Diversifying for almost 7 months now, and I love it.
Amazing.
Over to you.
Hi everybody, and thank you for the invitation. It's awesome to be here and not self-conscious at all. There's a camera in the background.
Don't worry,
You got this, Ben.
I'm Ben. My pronouns are he and his, he and his. Those are my pronouns. And I've been at Diversifying for the last 16 months, I believe, and super excited to be here with Desiree and with the wonderful Naomi, who's brilliant at podcasts and doing some very, very interesting conversations today.
Thank you. Don't worry. We're not paying Ben to be here and say that to the gun, but literally. And things. Anyways, let's get started. So this month is obviously Black History Month, and we've got a very special topic to talk about today, which we all kind of just speak about a bit before the cameras turned on. So let's see if we can recreate that magic right now and things. But yeah, let's just talk about hair. So, kind of how does hair relate to like meaning with gender, race, class, and like what are kind of your experiences with that, and also professionalism and things. So if we just want to dive right in about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think hair is very, very important to Black girls. Obviously, my girls, I'm going to talk about my girls. I think it's really, really important to us because I think for a long time, like, you grow up and I guess there is a certain type of image and we don't look like that image that is, constantly in our faces. However, I think over time, like, Black girls have really learnt to grow and grow within themselves, like, love their hair. I know for me, there was a period in my life where my mum did a texturizer. So a texturizer is basically like a chemical treatment that permanently straightens your hair for like a few months, and then you have to like keep doing it. And sometimes what that would do would like burn my scalp. And so I'd have like scabs. And I just remember thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, so I think I went through like a breakup. It was my first ever breakup. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut my hair.
Baby Desiree.
Yeah. And it was one of my first experiences, like, really getting in touch with myself. And I just felt so, like, in control. And I cut my hair and I had like an afro. And I did notice that certain men looked at me and certain men didn't. And this is a conversation a lot of Black women have. There's a certain type of man that likes a Black woman in her natural state.
Right.
And I did notice that. And even at that time, I used to work in central London at Victoria's Secret. And obviously that's like a bit of like an upscale place, the certain type of people that come. And I just remember feeling so self-conscious, like, oh my God, I'm going to work in an afro and it's in central London. Like, what's this going to be like? And after I was just thinking, you know what? Like, I really don't care. This is me, not the relaxer, not the texturizer, not the continuously straightening my hair.
Yeah.
This is my hair. And then obviously you start learning how to do different hairstyles. I was doing twists and braids and stuff. And yeah, I kind of really, really got in touch. So I think hair is a story for every other black girl, you know. Some black women are still kind of in the cycle of relaxing, but I think it's an internal thing. Like one day you might make the decision to straighten your hair or relax it. Either way, as long as it's not coming from a place of self-hate, I think it's fine. So that's kind of my take on what black hair means to me.
Yeah, well said. And from the perspective of someone who's of dual heritage, my mum was from Cameroon. I have always found that hair is an integral part of my identity. And it's interesting the experiences that I've had throughout my life where I've tried to, for example, go and get my hair done, and I've been told in predominantly white areas in northern England that we don't do afro hair. And this was in the 90s, but the impact that had on me was there with several friends, none of them who had African heritage, and really felt very, very excluded within the process. So the reason why I'm saying that is because hair has always been a fundamental part of my own identity, and at various parts of my life I've had an afro, which.
You look so cute with your baby pics.
Thank you. I even had an afro when I was fairly old as well. A few years back. But having that afro, I guess part of that also helped me to come closer into touch with my African identity. When I could go there throughout the process of getting the afro comb, which my mum showed me how to use when I was a child, and getting the afro comb and plucking it out, and that sort of transition from the small hair to the big hair almost sort of like brought about a growth and confidence as well, just that process of getting the afro out. Sadly, I don't have an afro anymore, but it's interesting looking at the experience of men. So you're referring to women. I think that the hair also has a really important role to play with confidence of black men. And one thing that I'm noticing, which is slightly shifting now, is more black men are growing their hair, having dreads, plaits, or growing out their afros, whereas a few years ago, so many would have hair like mine, be either completely shaved or very short. So I don't know what is driving that, whether or not it's sort of like a greater willingness to explore African identity, or a greater acceptance to have African identity, black identities more present within the media or within society. But yeah, that's a very long-winded way of saying men also go through that process as well.
Through the hair journey as well.
The hair journey. It's a journey.
Yeah,
it is a really, really important journey, though, I think. Yeah.
I don't know, both of you, I thought it was interesting that you both kind of spoke about your parents being integral roles in you discovering what do you think about that? I mean, I know, Ben, obviously you're a parent now as well, and that I guess would it be fair to say that they were kind of the ones that showed you how to have a relationship with your whatever that relationship was? That's
a really, really good question. I think for a long time I never understood why my mum would put a texturizer in my hair, but I think it just made the process so much easier. Like Sunday evening, my hair is already straight, so she could just quickly plait it and then go about her business. But when she was dealing with my hair in a natural state, I could tell that it was really frustrating for her, because it's like it was curly, it was extremely, my hair is really, really thick, and I've always had really long hair. So I guess my mum, she wasn't really used to that, because all her life, her hair's been relaxed.
Right.
So she's never had to deal with her hair in its natural state. Whereas, obviously, when it came to me, she decided that, you're going to do the same thing, basically. Until, obviously, like I said, I think I was around 18, where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I cut my hair. And when my mum saw me, she was like, oh, you look nice, And so I just felt more in control. But I think, obviously, your parents know what they know, because that's what they know, innit? She couldn't have raised me natural and not know how to do it, because I would have looked so, unkept, basically. But I guess they have to learn through us sometimes as well. And I've shown my sister as well, and my sister is natural. She's never had to relax her hair, etc. So yeah, you end up being like an influence. Other people get to see you and feel like, wow, you know, her hair's natural, but she still knows how to like make it nice, like whatever that means to them. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like that's a really important question, because as women, like, we learn from our mums. Do you know what I mean? But I guess I kind of took my own route, and yeah.
And as men, we also learn from our parents. And, so when I was a child, my mum had an afro as well. Looking back at the photos of her from the 70s, she had like a huge afro. My mum was from Cameroon, so it was seen as being a strong way of showing your Cameroonian or your African identity back then. So I basically grew up in an environment where an afro was not only socially acceptable, it was a cool thing to do. It was a way of showing your identity. My sisters had little afros as well when they were younger. So I guess sort of like seeing that as being normalized, it was something that I also carried with me in my interactions.
Definitely.
At the same time, as you both know, we were talking before we started filming. I spent a lot of my life in northern England, outside of London. So being in Yorkshire, for example, in the 90s, and having an afro was a very different experience to having an afro in London. So gradually, I'm hoping things change. One thing that we were also talking about earlier was the association between whiteness and beauty as well. Before we started filming this, I wanted to also bring that up now. And the curious thing is that even in predominantly black countries, like in parts of Africa, you'll go to a supermarket and you'll see beauty products, and the models might be black, but in terms of features, for example, the hair is straightened. So you made a very good point earlier, Desiree, how this almost becomes internalized by a lot of black people. Particularly, I would imagine black women to associate straight hair with beauty.
Absolutely. Even when my family found out that I was like natural now, it's like sometimes it's the language that they use to describe your hair. Like, but it's going to be so hard to manage. Isn't it difficult to do this? Like, how'd you get your hair like that? It's like, what do you mean? Do you know what I mean? Everybody's hair is different, of course, but like, I just remember even like my aunties in Ghana, when they'd see my hair like in its natural state, they'll just be like, hey, like, isn't it like difficult, and like doesn't it take up a lot of your time, as if like getting the relaxer is like the easy this is the easy route, do you know what I mean? But you being in your natural state suddenly is like a recipe for disaster.
Like, that's just too difficult.
It's just so like, if I had a daughter, I would want her to be proud of her hair, like, do you know what I mean? Because every other race, everybody else, they wake up, they're proud of their hair, etc. So we need to do the same for our black children as well. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's the language sometimes. It's really, really frustrating. And I think obviously your family play a really big part in your life, isn't it? So when they're saying stuff like, oh, is it going to be you're going to be thinking, oh, actually, you know what, like, they're saying that, so maybe I shouldn't be natural, you know? But no, you to be natural.
Yeah, really good point. And going back to the supermarket in East Africa or wherever across the African subcontinent, in that beauty products section next to the hair products, there's very often like a
whitening product.
Skin toning product as well. So it's sad, and I hope this is something that will shift as well. Against that association between being lighter skinned and being beautiful. It's something that isn't just limited to African countries. From my experience, also in India,
Asia as well.
Yeah, Asia as well.
It happens as well. Yeah. Also, like speaking to Indian friends, you go to the beach and you're like, oh, are you enjoying the sun? It's like, no, I'm going to get so dark.
The anti-blackness and the colorism in Asia is something that just needs to constantly be addressed. Like,
I did my dissertation on colorism.
Oh, yeah.
And you remember before we started filming, I was like, oh, I've never faced discrimination. I think now looking back that when I wrote that essay, I know for a fact that it was a great dissertation. But because my lecturer didn't have a good understanding, I was marked down. And the comment that she gave me was so like, oh, but this seems a little bit far-fetched. It's like, but this is my reality.
Far-fetched.
Yeah, and it was I was so blown away. But it's till this day, it's like it's really crushed me because I worked so hard.
Yeah.
I did so much research on colorism and how it affects everything from like finances, etc. And
So she was denying that colorism exists.
She basically she made it seem like I had just made something up.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
But again, it's like the people are not really educated on how we struggle like in the community, etc. Everyone is kind of in their own bubble. So yeah.
Yeah, I would like to think that if you're writing that dissertation now, she would understand it.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened over the last couple of years, but who knows?
They'd probably send you like I posted the black square as well.
Oh, get out of here.
So one of the things I wanted to ask as well was something we talked about as well, because obviously you mentioned about current day, and obviously Desiree, you spoke a bit just now about the kind of intergenerational healing that you've done and everything, and but as well, one of the things that I remember that you wanted to speak about as well, kind of if we think back to kind of like hair, like pre-colonial times and things, and obviously you spoke about your Cameroonian heritage, Ben, and the kind of like, I guess, like symbols of pride and things, and I just wanted to ask you two about kind of like if we kind of think about the symbolism of hair today, but also where has that come from and like the kind of journey that it's been on. I don't know if you wanted to share about that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think with me, like, I'm very, very proud of my hair. I'm really proud of like the styles I can do, especially learning more about Black history and like, why we do things like braids. Like I learned that in order to store food, the slaves would like braid rice in their hair, etc. Like all these things just make you think like, wow, like this is actually why we do, you know, these hairstyles and hairstyles that we still do till today, like Bantu knots. You know, that's a protective style. You know, you can do that on Monday. The moisturizer is still gonna be in their hair till Thursday. Like, do you know what I mean? It's amazing. So the history with Black hair, Black culture is very, very rich. And I just, I really hope, I think, to be honest with TikTok and stuff, it's like there's so much easy access to like Black hair education. So a lot of Black women are learning how to do their hair. They're learning how to be really proud of it. They're learning where these styles have come from, etc. And I guess it's making them feel a lot more comfortable that they're not the only one who could be struggling with how to do their hair. How do I, like, what cream do I use? Like, these are questions I get all the time. And it's like, don't be afraid to ask. Do you know what I mean? We're all on this journey of discovering. And I feel like just embrace the journey and don't be afraid to ask questions, really.
Yeah, so true. But it's interesting the role that hair has always played. You know, whether or not it's the 1970s, the association between the afro and
disco times
or civil rights movement,
Black
Panther, radical progressiveness in the US and
Angela Davis
beyond.
and
the association, you know, very often with the hair, you would also have the clothing as well. How African prints entered, particularly the US, the UK to a degree, and how that almost became like symbols of liberation. Even like, you know, since time began, the symbolism of the plaiting, the mother plaiting the daughter's hair. And as that would happen, the mother would tell stories to the mother, how the stories would go from generation to generation within the process, educational stories as well. So I think hair has always played a really, really important role. And just to make the point that within the African village context, it wouldn't just be the mother and the daughter, but many children would have their hair plaited by different women, because different women would in effect help to bring up the children. So historically, I think hair has always played an essential role, and I think it's quite curious now that we've almost gone full circle, because now you get the accusation of appropriation or misappropriation, where you have for example, white women or women who are not black who are getting plaits.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, both of you?
I don't have an issue with that as long as the origin and the influence is acknowledged. What I have an issue with is if it's just sort of like held as being something cool.
Yeah. Like,
in that sense.
I absolutely agree with Ben. I think there was this outrage when Kim Kardashian did like my hairstyle basically, and she was like how she like made it up.
Yeah.
And everyone was just thinking, you didn't though. And no hate to Kim Kardashian. I'm a fan of the Kardashian family, okay? But, you know, I didn't like that because then it kind of makes room for like other people to try and duplicate these things that we've been. This is our history. This is our life. Do you know what I mean? Like some people, the reason why they have dreadlocks is like for religious reasons. Like it's not some style that they just want to do. So it's like, as long as like you know where things are coming from and you respect that, do you know what I mean, and you acknowledge it as well, then that's very important, I think.
Yeah. And from a male perspective, just latching on to what you're saying regarding religion, if you look at Rastafarians, who have basically taken the parts, the dreads, as being a very powerful way in order for them to show their identity and also be closer to God. So it applies to both men.
Yeah.
Is there a meaningful way that somebody could be respect? Because I feel like, I guess from like what I was thinking though is really wearing the braids though to be in without the context of, for example, of let's say if there was a multiracial family, you know, with like the mum doing the hair for all the children, maybe they would do it on the white kid as well. But I'm just thinking though, is there really a respectful way to do that without, because in a sense is it because they've seen it, because they think, oh, that's cool, like because they've seen Kim Kardashian do it, and is that itself not also a form of like because they're just doing it to look cool, but when it's not really understanding the history behind it?
It's an interesting thing. And that could apply to so many different things.
Yes,
that could
course.
apply to rock and roll music.
Literally.
Right? That could apply to rock and roll music.
Yeah, absolutely,
the origins
that too.
of rock and
Yeah.
roll. You know, going way back to jazz, to blues, going back further back to music that was brought from West Africa too.
Absolutely.
And yet a lot of musicians don't
Acknowledge.
No, they don't acknowledge it.
the origins. So sorry, that's a completely different
No, but I understand what you're saying, but I think as well, it's the over-analysing, or like, can I do this? Like, can I do that? I think if it's coming from the right place, you don't need to ask, like, am I allowed to braid my hair? Because at the end of the day, it is just hair. However, we have to understand where something's come from as well.
Yeah, that's
So, yes, of course, if I saw a white girl with braids, there are some questions that I'm going to ask. You know, some of it is question, But then at the same time, it's like, she probably really admires like the black culture, and I guess but I think the over analyzing, can I do this, can I do that, that's when it looks a bit like weird to me anyway. But yeah, I think the acknowledgement part is very important. Just learning where things come from, and you know, seeing if you are allowed to do those things. Do you know what I mean? Because there are some pro-black people that they are not with white people doing dreads, and you know, there are some pro-black people who aren't for white people doing braids and stuff, and I also understand that as well. So yeah, to each their own, really.
Indeed. And at the same time, for example, you get white Rastafarians as well.
Yeah.
If they're not allowed to wear dreads, then how can they really be Rastafarians?
That'd be a very complex topic, and it's sort of, I guess we never, you know, because for example, I guess we could get into the realms of what if it was a mixed person that was white assumed, you know, but they would be participating in their culture with their family at home. And then I know there's obviously very specific kind of examples and things, and it's not usually the case that when you see a white person with dreads in public, you don't think, hey, hang on a second, maybe they're...
It's true.
But I think, it's a very interesting topic. So I guess I just wanted to ask as well about one of the big things that's kind of come into sort of public consciousness at the moment is about hair politicalness at work. I guess I wanted to ask what what you both had to say about that.
I've always known that this was like an issue, especially for black women, because like some, you know, black women like to wear their natural hair out, and if it's worn out, it looks like it's unkept. Like it looks like you've just woken up and you haven't like brushed your hair, when actually that's not true. She's probably...
Is that not the language that you were speaking about earlier, about the idea of unkept or
exactly
unruly or messy?
And so especially going into like the corporate world where everyone's hair is like tied back and you just have to look really clean.
The clean girl look
basically,
on TikTok.
Yeah, it's like, I understand why so many black girls got so much anxiety over their hair, because obviously when you go to work, you want to look presentable and approachable, etc. And it's like, if you look a certain way, it can kind of discredit you from those things. However, when I obviously graduated and I was looking for a job, I made sure that I found somewhere that was going to accept me for being me, basically. So that meant that I would want to be comfortable in an environment where I could wear braids and no one's going to look and think, oh, like, well, she's ghetto or she's this, that, you know. So yeah, I think the workplace, it plays a really, really big part in like self-confidence, and when you think about hair as well. I don't know for you, Ben, like what that was like.
So I think similar to you, I've actually chosen organizations where I can have my natural hair as much as possible. So so before this, working within the international development sector, working for NGOs where it's more relaxed. It's you don't get. Maybe I'm not very observant, but I don't recall getting getting funny looks or like, passive aggressive comments.
That's why you're helping the war-torn country, and things you're not getting stared at.
Yeah, and indeed, and obviously at our workplace, we're all free to do that. At the same time, looking at LinkedIn and following the experiences that a lot of black women in particular, from what I'm reading, not everybody is as open-minded as the organizations that I've worked for, and it seems to be a trend more recently over the last couple of years where I don't know if you've noticed this, but women are basically posting statements saying, this is the first day that I wore my natural hair to the office, and I felt the confidence. I didn't feel as though I was going to be judged. I hope that's a reality. I hope that's a sign that the workplace is becoming more accepting.
Yeah, and I think even before you walk into a workplace wanting them to accept you, you have to accept yourself. You have to walk in there thinking, you know what, like, this is me, and if they can't accept that, then I'm sorry, like maybe this is not the right environment for me. I think like it's the confidence that you have to wear and not like expect this validation from people. Do you know what I mean? I understand that like it's a natural thing. Obviously, you're going to walk in somewhere and you're going to go to work, and you do want people to respect you, and especially depending on like, I guess, what type of position you play at work. But still, like, it's the confidence. You need to have that inside of you. That's what I'm saying. It's the internal. Right. Everything starts from inside, isn't it? Yeah.
So you set the boundaries of how
you have to. You know, like, you are literally the author of your life. So if you're going to say you're going to go to work, then you have to make it known that like, this is me. Do you know what I mean? This is how I like to do my hair. It doesn't affect how I work. It shouldn't affect how much I'm paid, etc. So yeah, I think it does start from inside, and I know that it's easier said than done, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
What do you think about then workplaces where it's, say, potentially more diverse, kind of like, I mean, I would say our workplace is fairly diverse.
Yeah, I was even going to say, like, representation is so important, because even Cynthia, our CEO, she wears braids. Yeah. And it's like, this is nice to see, because usually that's not really the case. And I just love that, like, people, black women in our workplace, like me and Denise, like, we see Cynthia in braids, like, it makes us feel comfortable, like, oh, like, we can wear braids too, do you know what I mean? And it just feels natural. Whereas maybe in a different environment, it probably wouldn't be the case. Like, you'd probably have to, like, maybe wear a wig or something. Do you know what I mean? So
is Cynthia the first black CEO boss that you've had?
Yes, she's the first black CEO boss I've ever had, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Trust me. Yeah.
We're not paid to say this, I swear.
No, we're not, don't worry.
No, you make a really good point regarding role models, right?
Yeah.
So just to have that
have you ever had a role model like that at work at all,
that's a
Ben?
good question.
Have you ever had like a mixed role model, for example, at work?
Not a mixed, but actually my mentor's a Kenyan man, and the first organization that I worked for after I graduated from my BA was a women's rights organization, an international development women's rights organization, and he was amazing. He was the head of East African projects. He was a feminist. He was straight, so he someone that I really looked up to. I could have a chat about so many different issues. He always took the time for me, and he was a role model because he was someone we had like shared African heritage in that sense, and he was very progressive, right? So he went against a lot of stereotypes of African men in the sense that there's a stereotype that African men are not interested in feminism. That isn't true from my experience. But even back then, this was a long time ago. He was someone that I really looked up to.
I really like that. I feel like role models, especially for like us Black people, are really, really important. Even in the workforce as well, like to see, I don't know, I will use Cynthia as an example, but to see where like she is, it's like it makes you feel like, wow, like I can be that and I can look like that as well, and I can do my hair like that as well, and still be in that type of position. But it also kind of broadens your mind as well. Like you've probably had a really good example from your mentor, etc. So yeah, I feel like mentors are really, really great examples, especially I guess if you want to go somewhere in life but you feel like something could be a hindrance, example, your hair, do you know what I mean? But it just kind of really makes you feel like I can actually do anything. But I guess the work really just starts from inside,
Yeah, it does. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think the role of parents is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So both my parents were great role models to me in that sense. To give me the confidence to, mum especially, to wear that afro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that.
So yeah, things that we have to take to the next generation as well.
Definitely.
I guess what you were speaking about, Ben, was kind of would you say that this mentor showed you a version of Black masculinity that really appealed to you and that really resonated with you?
Exactly. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. Exactly. So again, a stereotypical form of Black masculinity is homophobia, right? And I'm just going to name drop Ed Wageni, my mentor. He was very, very progressive and very, very not tolerant, accepting of people of different protected characteristics. So when I was sort of fresh out of university, seeing someone like that, it's like, wow, okay. This man is challenging so many different status quos and stereotypes. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And back then, I didn't see people like him on television, television programs, whatever, or in the media. But to be able to sit down in an office and speak to him, and so we're getting off point.
No, that's amazing.
Role models,
yeah. And I think both of you are speaking to kind of the power of potentially seeing somebody that you relate to that has already been through that journey, because I guess what we've been speaking about before was our parents are the first kind of interaction we have with that and with our identity and how that informs our experience in the world. But then seeing other people with potentially similar experiences to us who have the desired characteristics that we want to do, the things that we want to be as well. You're talking about how Cynthia inspired you, and you're talking about how your mentor inspired you and things, and how that's kind of helped you in turn kind of revitalize the image inside yourself.
Yeah.
And things. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. What would you say then about the kind of next generation? Because you just spoke about that as well now, Ben. We have to inspire them. Well, because already we're seeing a lot of things changing, especially Black history is being a lot more taught. Obviously, not anywhere near as much as need to be before. Blah blah blah. But even the name, obviously, Black history itself, the idea that it's. So I don't know.
Just like one day we're talking about Black history, like this whole month is just all about Black history, and then November is just like, oh, it's just November. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Also, the segregation as well of it being Black. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
To answer your first question about what does the future look like?
Yeah. What do you think the future looks like?
I think it's looking amazing. I'll be real. I think now people are really kind of tapping into themselves, like. Black girls and Black boys have like the confidence to grow their hair out, you know, or even shave their hair off. Like, it's starting to just be this thing that it's just hair now. Because I think we've just come to a place of like acceptance. And yeah, hair is always going to be quite political in our community, but I love how even the women who are now shaving their hair, it's something that's powerful to them. It doesn't feel like they've lost anything, you know? There's this book called Sister Sister, and the author's called Candice Brathwaite. And Brathwaite, I don't even want to like butcher her name, but basically Candice talks about how she used to relax her hair.
Right.
And she had been relaxing it for so long. She just got to a point where she was like, you know what, this is coming off. So she said she had to go to like so many barbers because every time she'd go into the shop, they'd be like, what? No, I'm not cutting a woman's hair. Like, you know, why would I cut her hair? Why would I cut her hair? Until she finally got to this one barber who ended up cutting her hair for her. And she's never grown her hair back ever since.
Right.
And she gets a shape up and she looks amazing. Wow. And I feel like she's a great example of still being really successful. She's married. You know, it didn't take anything away from her.
Right.
If anything, she gained like an extra level of feeling, you know, sexy and beautiful and feminine in her blackness.
Yeah, we all want this.
Yeah, so that story to me is very empowering because it's like, this is the future. Everybody's finding what works for them and they're running with it. And we don't, you can't care about what a man is going to think, what another woman's going to think. Do you know what I mean? It's just all about you now. And I love that. I love that story. It's a great book, by the way. I love literature, you know. But yeah.
Did anyone else have this Sister Sister soundtrack when you said the book was called Sister Sister?
Oh, yeah,
with Tia Mowry. Sister.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, what's your thoughts about Ben?
That was beautifully put. I think that literature has a really important role to play.
Big one for me.
Yeah, like thinking about like the next generation. I think it's about maintaining momentum as well. You know, we're at a crucial time in evolution in so many different ways when it comes to human rights, society, etc., etc. And yeah, I think looking at children, for example, is making sure that books sort of
books
represent represent representation, so that you know, exactly.
I love it.
So that, you know, that the child from a very early age sees themselves represented.
Did either of you have any books? Because I never... Is there any book actually I ever had an East Asian... No. Did any of you have a book that represented you or made look like your family at all?
No, you know, I didn't. I think that's why when I got like started reading a lot, I really gravitated towards like African American literature. I just felt like, right, I can see myself in the characters. I can see myself. Oh, it just feels a lot more like home. But maybe not in school, not so much, you know. Luckily, like it didn't affect me or anything. But only now that I'm older, I really gravitate towards like books like that.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I read other things, but I really do like African American literature and where the main characters are like black and
Is there any actually that we can think of now where the black main characters in children's books or children's literature?
Ooh, children's books. I'm not too sure. I know about adult ones.
More so these days. So I did have books when I was a child.
Really?
Like that, but my parents had to go completely out to their way to find.
Right. Without the internet as well.
Yeah, exactly. Without the internet. Yeah, sort of going back to representation, I think it's also about challenging stereotypes, right? So there's a really cool book that I read to my daughter, which is called Hair Love, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a fantastic book. So basically the premise is mama's working, daddy's at home looking after
your
daughter. I've forgotten her name. We'll just call her daughter for now. And daughter wants daddy to do her hair. And daddy has never done daughter's hair, but he really wants to do it. In fact, despite the fact that he's tired, so he tries various different styles, does an afro, etc., and they settle upon the perfect hairstyle for her, and she's so proud. And mama comes home from work at the end of the day, and like, mama, look what daddy's done.
Yeah.
So you know, that book is great because it's challenging so many different stereotypes, right? The mama as the provider, mama's working, dad is taking time to look after the child at home. You know, this is challenging the stereotype of like, for example, single parent families. There's a myth that Black British families are predominantly single parents, and this book is challenging so many things there. Dad has taught himself how to do his child's hair, and the child is wearing natural hair. So yeah, that's a book that I love reading to my daughter. And then there are so many books out there. There are. You just have to find them.
Definitely are. And I think as well, there's so many more opportunities, as you said, for like authors and things to get that kind of notoriety from TikTok or from I've seen on Facebook groups of people that just, you know, specifically I'm in Asian networks, for example, but I'm sure there's the equivalent that they say, oh yeah, I'm coming out with a book if anyone wants to pre-order, and then, you know, loads of people comment on the thing, and then there's so many things out there that we can get access to now.
Yeah, I think like parents are really trying to, especially like these days, parents are really trying to teach their children to, like, I guess, keep the validation within themselves. Like, so reading those pages and seeing yourself in the books and the color of the, you know, the main character's skin. Like, imagine seeing that as a child, and then you grow up and think like, oh, this is normal, you know, because I've seen it for ages.
Yeah, it would be so crazy.
So yeah, I like how parents are definitely making their children read more.
Yeah, from a dual heritage perspective, I would like to see more mix.
Yeah, what was your thought about that? Because obviously you're speaking specifically for the experience, and your mum was Black, and then was your dad?
My dad is white.
Yeah, dad is white. What was your experiences in that sense? In a sense of a lot of people I've spoken to about the experience of you know, there wasn't necessarily. Was there any role model for you for Black masculinity specifically?
Growing up, no. Like my dad was my role model as well. I think that's, we also have to be very careful, because we automatically assume that if someone's dual heritage, right, that person is Black as well.
No,
they have different.
Of course.
That's not me throwing that at you.
No.
Naomi as well. But yeah, my dad was my role model. A role model, and both my parents were my role models. But I guess their experience was slightly different, because they met in Cameroon. My dad lived in Cameroon for a very long time. And most of his friends were Cameroonian, and we always had a lot of African friends as well. Like even till now. So he's always not only had the passion and the interest in like different African cultures, but he's also learned a lot, you know, within that. So I guess that's also a good example of allyship, right? So the role that people who have not actually experienced, you know, the trauma, the discrimination, can actually play in helping their loved ones or just others in society.
Yeah, I guess I sort of asked about that is because I was wondering about your experiences with potentially being read societally as Black, as you've told me from your experiences, and then having potentially a different experience to your father. So that's why I was asking about the Black masculinity in that sense.
Yeah, no, indeed, and to be honest, I can't count how many times in my life that I've sort of had this heated debate with people telling me that I'm Black. And I'm like, I'm actually brown. I'm dual heritage. I'm very, very proud of my African heritage. I'm proud of my European heritage, and I'm a brown dual heritage person. So don't try to fit me in your box. Okay?
I love that.
I know who I am.
Yeah,
that's good.
I love that. It's very good.
I wanted to ask you a question, Desiree, on hair products. So you're saying that you stopped using the chemical things that burn.
That was years ago.
Yeah. So
What do you use?
What do you use now?
Guys, your hair loves water. So let's start there. Water is the best thing you can give your hair. And oil's great as well. There's a great oil, Maya Organics. They have a rosemary oil. Anybody can use this, by the way, just open suggestion. I don't really like cream in my hair. This might be controversial, but it's only because the smells are so strong sometimes. But if I was to cream my hair, I would use the Shea Moisture. They have a
shea butter.
Is it shea butter or
no? The Shea Moisture. They have like a castor oil moisturizer for your hair. And yeah, I keep my products very, very minimal.
Right.
I use the same shampoo, the
Which
same
shampoos
conditioner.
do you use?
Maya Organics, they've got an exfoliating shampoo.
Nice.
Which is really nice. And even when you shampoo your hair and it lathers, it's still really like soft.
Oh,
You know, because
yes.
shampoo can be quite stripping.
Yeah. Very
And
drying
then
sometimes.
but with the conditioner, I use ORS. They have like an olive oil conditioner. My routine is extremely simple.
Right.
I really care about the health of my hair.
Okay.
I don't care about the length. The length will come in. Of course, it's always your hair's always gonna grow. You know, but I really, really care about like the health of my hair. So yeah, water's my best friend.
Some good tips.
Yeah,
there.
everybody listen up.
Yeah,
please.
water
This not
is your best
sponsored.
friend. Trust me.
Yeah, Desiree
Yeah.
has the exact. Now everybody else can get access to this
Everybody
fantastic routine.
go to get Maya Organics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I share some tips as well?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
come on, let's hear them.
Obviously, my hair's short now. It
Yeah.
wasn't a few weeks ago.
No,
but-
yeah, we saw you with your hair
but
before.
I stopped shampooing. I stopped using shampoo many years ago. I don't use any shampoo. Partly because I found that shampoo really dried my hair out.
Right,
It does. It's really
yeah.
It's not really good for the scalp. So for the last couple of years, I've been using water, but also using olive oil.
Oh, very cool.
So I condition my hair with olive oil like once or twice a week.
Nice.
Regarding skin products, as you might know,
I love this.
Yeah, this is great. I'm loving this too.
Yeah.
as you might know, I'm obsessed with coffee. So
Okay.
Yes.
don't waste your coffee granules.
Oh, do you-
Use
is it
your
exfoliation?
coffee
Use on your
granules.
face?
Use
Is it
your coffee granules. You can make a very nice exfoliating.
Yes.
So mix the coffee granules either with coconut oil
Oh.
or even if you just have soap. Then mix it into lather and it's beautiful. It's so good for your skin. It removes
Do
the
you have
dead
the
skin.
mortal and pesta at home? Are you crunching up your?
No, you don't need the mortar
Oh,
and pestle.
you just.
That sounds so
Yeah, just
interesting.
enjoy your coffee instead of just dumping the
Dumping it
coffee
away.
granules. Either put in the garden for the plants or you can make a nice. Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Brilliant.
Anyway, so I think
That's my tip.
Okay, cool. I think we're coming to the end of the podcast. So thank you so much, Ben, for sharing your coffee exfoliation
My pleasure.
routine. Thanks, but thank you so much again for both of you
No
for being on this
problem.
episode. Did you have anything you wanted to quickly plug before we finish?
My podcast should be coming out sometime in January, God willing. We'll be talking about life, love, and lessons.
Inshallah, people.
So yeah, it'll be great. I'm not going to share the name just yet, but just keep a watch out for.
Okay.
And so my autobiography is coming out next.
Ben, I would so read that. I would definitely read your autobiography.
Nothing to plug. Just thank you both. Obviously.
Thank you so much, Naomi.
Nice.
We
Well,
really
thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Interesting.
Well, thank you, listeners, and we'll speak to you in the next episode.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support this podcast, please share it with others and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with what we do at Diversifying Group at diversifying.com or follow us on social media at Diversifying Group. See you next time.